Welcome to the 100th Monkey Radio with Tom and Ramon. We are recording this on March 9th of 2015. You know, Ramon, this is, I heard something on the radio today that kind of, I don't know, it's like the stick in the mud that they had to throw out there. It's been gorgeous here this last week. I mean, beautiful skies. It's been it's been up into the low 60s, and for Western Washington this time of the year, it's just gorgeous. And I was sitting out in my truck at lunchtime today, and a little blurb came on the news about the state government here on the verge of declaring a state emergency, a state drought emergency, because the snowpack is, what they say, 28% of its normal snowpack. And I'm just like, oh, geez, come on, guys. How about just like, oh, it's gorgeous out there today. We're going to have a beautiful day and week or whatever. You know what? I don't know. Hence why I don't watch the news, and I try to stay away from that kind of stuff. It's just like, oh, what a downer. I'm sitting out there in gorgeous weather, and they go, oh, yeah, well, we're going to have a state of emergency. And I was like, us having a drought? Washington in a drought? Come on, guys. Go south a couple thousand miles, and we'll show you what a real drought is. So, anyway, so how you doing, Ramon?
Well, I'm doing pretty good. No complaints on this end. I have a few news things, and I guess I'll start off with this one because for so many people, this is like a really big deal, and we've all lost somebody to cancer. And incredible microscopic footage of cannabis oil eliminating cancer cells. Then go down, providing further evidence that THC kills cancer cells since 1974. There has been studies that show cannabis to be an anti-tumor agent. The result of the 1974 Washington Post study found that THC slowed the growth of lung cancer, breast cancer, and virus-induced leukemia in laboratory mice, and prolonged their lives by as much as 36%. Wow.
Oh, that's impressive.
Yeah, that's really impressive.
Yeah, I heard it on the cancer line, just something else, a coincidence here. I learned something at lunchtime also today about cancer, about brain cancer in particular, that there's something like 95% of all brain cancer patients had a root canal.
Ooh.
Yeah, that one I just like, well, you know, I guess that kind of makes sense. I mean, you get an infection in your jaws, and your head's pretty close to your brain. Yeah, I don't know. I just threw that out there for what it's worth.
No, the thing is, like, what's the metals that they're using when they because I have a root canal, and what's the metals that they're using inside of there?
Yeah, mercury and yeah.
Yeah, and you know. And that reminds me of the whole vaccine thing where, you know, I've been looking into it, and the doctors, they keep saying that there's no mercury in the children's vaccines, but I don't see any scientific proof of it. It's just their word. You know, there's no lab results or anything that I found so far. If someone has something out there, send it to me, but you know, I'm still standing against the whole vaccine idea. Not because I don't think it doesn't work. I think it works phenomenally. I just don't trust the crap they're putting into it.
Right.
Yeah. But anyway, and here's another one that's really cool. It's a biodegradable coffee cup that turns into trees when you throw away. So I guess you have to be careful where you throw these cups away at.
Huh.
Yeah, it's a creative company in California, of course, called Reuse. Grow has designed a coffee cup that is not only biodegradable, but even has seeds in the walls so that it can be planted and grown. Cool. The cups, which are currently part of a Kickstarter campaign, will have seeds embedded in their walls based on their location. Participating stores will encourage people to plant the cups themselves or to return them to be planted by the company. So, I think there's so many of thousands of very intelligent people that have come up with great inventions that can solve all our problems. Unfortunately, they're not coming out.
Well, no, you know what? I disagree with that, Ramon. We have seen a tremendous change on the planet just in the last 5 years. People's awareness of the environment, people's awareness of their own participation in the environment. That's the big one right now. People are really starting to own their own actions in the world. And
yeah, I'm talking more about people who've come out with free energy devices that somehow have an accident, or those kind of inventions that never see the light of day. For example, 20 years ago, I remember seeing a TV show about a battery that was made by bacteria, and it was so powerful that it blew the motor of a motorcycle. Yet, have you heard of it?
Right.
That's what I'm talking about. That kind of stuff, not things that we as the people are able to do, because you're right. We've done lots of amazing things, and you have that 19-year-old boy that came up with a way to clean the oceans, Garbage Island,
right.
Which is in the middle of nowhere in the Pacific Island. That kind of stuff, but it doesn't get the support. The government will sit there and tell you that they want to do this, do that, and then never do any of it.
Right. Right. Well, and again, on that same note, there's change happening, and it has to start small. And we're getting the small things out there. The cup that grows. I mean, we're getting these types of things that are coming out, and people are saying. And as the consciousness continues to shift towards this type of mentality, this sustainable mentality, then we'll start seeing the larger things added in as time progresses. I'm sure of that, Ramon. I'm sure of that. So we have to be patient and keep our frustration factors down to a low simmer at the very least.
Yeah. Well, there's countries like Iceland that just it's amazing to me. I'm gonna have to go visit because it just sounds like a dreamland. The kind of stuff that they're doing. When they had their bank collapse, they arrested everybody instead of giving them money.
Right.
So
yeah.
Okay. Anyway, we have some amazing guests, and we don't want to keep them waiting.
Yeah, we have got Gregory and Gail Hoag with us tonight. When people meet Gregory and Gail Hoag, they sense a rare relationship full of consciousness and love. Gregory, scientist and leading expert on sacred geometry, along with Gail, artist, business, and health consultant, founded Metaforms 30 years ago. They create energetic tools that support people to evolve into higher awareness with source and heart consciousness. They are recognized as leading experts on sacred geometric technologies for improving health, raising consciousness, reducing stress, manifesting purpose, and clearing electromagnetic interference. Now, the Metaforms' mission is to shift the consciousness and health of humanity to thrive and play in the new earth energy. They pioneer and produce the finest subtle energy products and services available to empower, transform, and evolve the lives of millions. Through the wisdom of sacred geometric technologies, our expanding Metaforms community of inspired leaders activates the spiritual evolution of humanity, allowing the joyful expression of unconditional love and service to flourish. Welcome to the 100th Monkey Radio, Gail and Gregory Hoag.
Thank you, Tom. It's really fun to be here. I'm looking forward to what we can share tonight.
Same here. This is, it was enjoyable to listen to some of the issues that you were talking about earlier, because, we're all becoming more and more aware of what's going on the planet. And at the same time, we're also becoming more aware of what we can contribute, which, is a double-edged sword,
Exactly.
Because we want to do as much as we can right now. And that's a good thing. We're really being compelled to take action. And the amazing time to be alive.
Oh, man. That is definitely for sure.
And absolutely. When we talk about sacred geometry is literally everything in the way it works. And when I say everything, I mean the way that all the frequencies can be understood that create this reality, all the patterns that are created in everything from the atomic level to the galactic level. And it meshes with time. It helps us understand how time sequences work. And, that's what we're in the midst of right now. It's the ending of a number of different cycles, major precessions on a galactic level, and something that the Hindi philosophy understood as yugas.
Right.
And the last great yuga of, the darkest yuga is the Kali Yuga, and that began in 3000 BC. And we are just right now entering the end of that time. So 5,000-year period of disconnection, of really the darkest time for humanity in many, many, many thousands of years. And this is the twilight of the Kali Yuga. So it's a time when, like Tom was talking, or no, I guess it was Ramon that was talking earlier about some of the things that, inventions that seem to come up and then they disappear. And there is a darkness playing in the world, and yet there's light shining on it too. So more and more people are starting to recognize what isn't working, that there are aspects of government, aspects of the economic system, the social system. There are a lot of things that are really broken and not allowing for health and well-being for all, for the good of all. And it's that light that's coming in this twilight that shows the darkness for what it is. So for conversations, programs like what you're doing, the most important thing is to illuminate more and more individuals to the reality of what isn't working, but then you don't go to war against what isn't working. You don't go to battle with it. You start working on the only thing you really can work on, which is consciousness. And you start with your own consciousness, and then it starts spreading out from there. Because consciousness is a remarkable thing. It's what's the shift that's really being proposed by universe right now to our world, is the raising of consciousness, because the planet is going through changes.
Right.
Things are changing right now.
Right. It is definitely an amazing time to be here, and our whole show is basically centered around that aspect of consciousness, the raising of consciousness. Looking for that proverbial 100th monkey to there's that point where it becomes common knowledge that we are all connected on a very fundamental level, and much deeper and closer than most people realize. And this is the time for it to start unveiling. We're seeing it. We're seeing it happen. I mean, just in our own personal lives. I'm sure you two experience this on a regular basis. That unspoken words, with the communication that doesn't require words. That telepathy, that connection that we develop between each other, where words aren't needed because we know what what each other are saying without voicing anything.
That's such an important shift that people are going through, and the tools that we've developed, one of the areas that is so strongly enhanced is the intuition. We grew up in a time where intuition was something that, you kind of whispered about it in the background, or if you heard an inner voice, you tried to quiet it, you tried to deny it.
Right.
Now we're realizing that intuition is a key part of who we are. It's our ability to really listen to our real home self, to source within. And so as we're growing and we're becoming more aware of our intuition, and our tools are just pretty amazing in how they open people up to realities that they had just, really shut down on. There's so much capacity, so much to learn, and as you were saying, telepathically, you understand each other. And, when we understand each other, the barriers between us drop. And we're able then to start embracing each other and accepting each other for who we are, as opposed to having to, have everybody be the way you want them to be.
Right.
And that's a real dynamic shift. So we can come from the place of we, embrace the we-ness, as opposed to that I-ness, the individuality, the ego aspect of ourselves. And that higher consciousness, that higher knowing is just amazing in what it brings to us. It allows us to get into, instead of reaction, we can make choices. We don't have to be victims to our, that little part of ourselves, the wounded part of ourselves that wants things to be a certain way and wants to make it right. Instead, we can embrace who each one of us are really coming forward with and share the gifts. So, the consciousness that is evolving it is evolving right now at such an astronomical rate that it's almost a little mind-boggling. And, I will just notice that things that, not that long ago were taboo conversations, or people would just not really get it. And now it's just, I really believe that we're beyond the 100th monkey. Now we're grooming ourselves. What do you do with this?
Right.
And that's a very exciting time.
And, 100th monkey, when you look at individuals and the energy they put out, an individual that is coming from victimhood or fear, or, so much of the world is really suppressed by the way that governments introduce fear, the way stresses come into their lives. And an individual under a lot of stress and worried about, just their survival is not going to have very much energy to put out into the world. But when you take someone that is really able to stay centered, really able to stay connected, and I think the way that we work with it in all the things that we do in our products is through the heart. The core of your being is accessed through your heart center. And that doesn't mean that your heart runs things or that emotion runs things. It's the higher part of yourself, the soul, that literally starts inhabiting this body more and more, along with the ego, giving the ego something to do and stay happy, because it's done a good job, building up the facade here and giving the soul a place to inhabit, but the more that soul comes through, the more coherent our field becomes. And a person that is going about life with a coherent field is really quite an anomaly and more powerful than we can imagine. If you took an individual like a Buddha, a Krishna, Jesus Christ, Mohammed, any of these great souls that religions have developed after they've left, but in their presence, their energy, if you put them on a big stick that they could, a balance beam, they would outweigh the effects of millions of souls because of their coherence, because of their connection. And that's what is starting to happen in the world, not with a special individual here or there, but with many individuals everywhere. It's like hundreds monkeys,
Right. Well,
it's not that the special 100th one, but we all have that opportunity in raising our consciousness and therefore having a profound influence on everything that's happening on this planet right now.
And that exactly what you just explained there, the masses of awareness, the people who are becoming aware, who are raising their consciousness, or who are balancing their energies, those things are, oh my God, they're really needed right now on this planet to bring some balance back here, because we got so far over to the right that it's I'm surprised. I'm surprised if you take a step back and look at our history, we're actually living under grace, because we have been so damn close to just absolutely destroying ourselves so many times on this planet. And just the fact that we are here right now, in my book anyways, is proof that there are higher powers that are definitely looking out for humanity on planet Earth.
Definitely. I mean, there has been positive interference for very good reason. I mean, we're a very special experiment. Look at the way we've been set up with an emotional body, and there have been experiments on other planets with emotional bodied beings, and they ended up blowing themselves up.
Right.
And I mean, because, an emotional reaction, and these emotions, they really came from a place within our ancient animal consciousness where the emotions all spring from fear. And it served us well when a saber-toothed tiger was coming up over the hill, and we needed to pump a lot of cortisol through our system, and so the adrenals took off, everything was going in order to put us into a stress situation, so we reacted. But today, we've got something where someone puts a scratch on the car, or the cat throws up on the carpet, and the body doesn't know what to do but to go into the same kind of stress situations. And so the body is still going through the same reactions, and that's where consciousness, people are starting to talk more and more about meditation, and that's a great place to begin. But I was like sharing with Gail this morning, it's like meditation is just a little bit of a window to who you truly are, that bigger being that you are. And when you get quiet, just even for a matter of seconds or minutes, and follow your breath, and what starts to happen is you start to connect to something that they're finding, no matter what kind of meditation you're doing, if you just count up to 10 and back down to 1 again, and just sit there and do that, something starts shifting in your body where that stress starts to dissipate, where your focus starts to get more clear. And what we have found is that with the tools that we've created through Metaforms, that meditation isn't something that you necessarily do for a few minutes, you know, an action in the morning and the evening, but it's something that is a state of being. It's a state of consciousness that you can carry with you continuously. So you can continuously, as we speak right now, be in a meditative state and be holding a frequency of connection. And in that connection, you're able to know everything that is going to be happening in the right order as it's laid out in front of you, if that makes sense. You don't have to know your future. You just play it out moment by moment perfectly in the best interest for everyone, because there's a guidance that comes through from higher self that puts us in, you know, into the play in a way where perfection gets displayed. And anyway, go ahead.
I really like the way you said that, and I agree 100% that state of being that you touch in through meditation, or you begin to learn through meditation. It becomes that connection becomes a part of being. There's a lot of hurdles through the whole process of that growth process through meditation. There's a lot of thresholds, shall I say, of knowing, where you reach certain levels of knowing about certain things within your being, your connection, when that still small voice actually starts making sense, and then it proves itself out in your life, and what it said manifests or comes to pass, and that confidence level grows within you. That enforces and grows that state of being within self, and eventually you just, instead of having to touch that in meditation, as you were saying, it becomes a part of being, and you walk that all day, every day, 24/7.
And it's a walking meditation. And
absolutely.
At 24/7, something I discovered, about 40 years ago now, was that when I was first starting to experiment with meditation, it was over 45 years ago, a friend of mine said, you know, have you ever had that experience where you're asleep and you start falling, and all of a sudden you hit and you wake up with a jolt? And I said, yeah. And he said, well, you know, if you start to meditate, you don't hit. And I went, really? So the next night, sure enough, I had one of those dreams where I was falling, which is really you and your astral starting to come back into your body. But I didn't realize it in that context at that time. But nevertheless, I was falling, and so I remembered what he had said while I was dreaming, and I started meditating. And I took off and I started flying. And then the interesting thing was, the next night I was having another dream, and I was in a train and I had bad guys chasing me in the train. And while I was running, I remembered the dream from the night before, and I thought, I wonder if meditation will work now. So I sat down in the middle of this train and started meditating, and the bad guys disappeared, the train disappeared, and that was the last negative dream I've ever had in my life.
Wow.
Because 24/7, you can meditate in your dreams and stay conscious in your dreams. You don't have to stop. And then you start seeing, what is a dream? Is it when I'm in bed with my eyes closed at night? Or is it when I'm walking around with my eyes open during the day? And how much is this, what we call reality, simply a projection of all the lives I've lived of all my karma, of all my belief systems, of what everyone has been saying, and how much can I shift this reality through being conscious? And it's totally 100% shiftable. And that's what we've been discovering and experiencing. I know my wife and I, in our lives and with what we've been sharing with people, especially when you have tools that help you get past all the EMFs, the toxins in the environment, your own negative thoughts, your own fears, your own stresses. When you have something that can take you into that center space, then that's the creative space. That's the place of beingness. And to come from your beingness is the place where we are fully in our power, fully in our love, because that's the source of all love and creation, is within our beingness through our heart center.
Well said. Well said. Perfect segue to into the metaforms. And before we take off into that area, though, I would like to learn a little bit about what actually got both of you on the path of self-discovery in the first place. I mean, most people, it's, well, I know for me in particular, it was that proverbial 2x4 that got hit upside the head to make me ask the first question. But what was it that what was it that sparked you into this path?
You know, for me, it's an interesting one. It started actually when I was 3 years old, and I had this epiphany. I was outside playing. I was swinging on a swing, and something happened where all of a sudden it was like this bolt of light hit me, and I went, oh, my God, I know why I'm here. I'm here to make a difference on this planet. And I was so excited that I got off the swing. I ran inside to the house where my mother was, and I said, Mom, I'm here because I'm here to make a difference. And she just looked at me like I was some kind of a little lunatic. And, of course, it burst my balloon, but that didn't matter because I knew it. I connected with something deep within me. And then, of course, I went on my, my little journey. And the next thing that happened that really jolted me, because I think all along I'd been a very intuitive person. And so, I had to listen to that voice because it was just part of my nature. But I didn't feel as if I fit in and, kind of felt like a stranger in a strange land. When I was about 19 years old, I had a near-death experience. And I had an illness that had me in the hospital, and I experienced going down the tunnel, and all of a sudden I went, whoa, I'm out of here. I'm leaving this body. And at that point, I have this vivid memory of pulling with all of my energy, pulling myself back in to my body and saying, this isn't the time yet. I'm not ready to go. And from that experience, it shifted. It shifted my life. I was 19, and I started, just being more open to the conversations that led me into things that were more conscious. I always cared. I was very politically active. I was very aware of things that were happening around, knowing that I was a change maker. And I think at that point, though, something shifted where I realized it was not about making a difference out there, trying to find out how do I change what's out there. It was how do I change what's in here? How do I shift my awareness, my consciousness? And so from that point on, life kept presenting me with different opportunities. And I took them on. It was through different programs, through different people. I have a background as an artist, and so that threw me into a lot of self-exploration and, just going deeper and deeper into what is reality. There's a point where I would be sitting in front of these big canvases just working with light and color. And that's when I really started to understand energy, and that everything is energy, and getting more in touch with light and pure source. And so, it's been a long progression for me, and it's interesting in terms of what Greg and I are doing with sacred geometry. I came on to the work of Buckminster Fuller, who became somebody that I was just so attracted to. And, he's the one who created the geodesic dome and worked with all these different tetrahedrons, and I would read his books and just went, whoa, this made perfect sense to me. And so I started to look at things in terms of geometry and energy even more specifically. So when Gregory and I met, it was a real amazing match, because he had been coming from another place in his life and working with geometries and energy from the experiences that he had had.
See, I started doing a lot of meditation and working with different masters back in the 60s and early 70s, and then ended up building a really powerful pyramid with a friend. It cost us about $50,000 to build, and that was in the late 70s, and we took turns sleeping in it. It set off my Kundalini, which is a flow of energy from the earth, and it was flowing through my body so strongly that holes were being burned in my feet just from the flow of energy from the earth. And part of me was going, wow, this is kind of neat, because subtle energy isn't really so subtle. It can physically shift your body. Another part of me was going, I got to get this under control or I'm going to burn out, because it was like hooking a 110 circuit up to a 220 line. It was just so much energy. My body was having a hard time handling it. But when things got balanced, I started seeing patterns. I started connecting to higher dimensional realities. And these were a lot of the same realities and beings Gail was connecting with. So when we got together, I had my box of geometries that I'd made, and I said, look, what do you think about these? And so we started working together. And it's been an ongoing progression. There are multiple dimensions that exist around our reality. And there are energies and consciousnesses that exist in all these dimensions. And we can interact with them. And they support our growth and evolution because we are part of their growth and evolution. And what's gone on the higher dimensional levels recently, within the last few years, all the ascended masters, all of the different archangels, all of the different energetic beings have been coalescing into a unity that can start to reflect what needs to happen on the earth plane for human beings to start to work together more as a we, more as a unity, and we can do things for the good of all rather than for, what's been pounded into our consciousness for thousands of years, that separation and the survival of the strong over the weak, which is an illusion. It's, even in what we call evolution, there are many ways to look at that term, but it's more, the successful ones are the ones that know how to work with the environment, to work with each other, to work with everything as it is. So cooperation is the biggest impetus toward growth, and that's what we're starting, I think, to recognize right now. So we both got into it and started connecting with these higher beings, and they're part of everything that's going on right now, and that oneness that has often come through, and Gail will come in and say, we've got to create this new tool. They're asking for it to make a difference in human beings and their consciousness, to clear a pathway. So we both put our energy into it, and it becomes very clear what we're supposed to build, and then they keep evolving as people grow and are ready to go more into clarity and into more energy. Then the tools shift, and we just shifted something today, a new tool in one of the chambers that we built on our land. We have a couple 100 acres in Colorado that has some very powerful vortexes on it. It has a strata of copper going through the cliffs, and the cliff where we built our home has a whole strata of rounded quartz balls, just trillions of them running through this strata that goes right down underneath our home. So we work with the energy. We work with the energy of nature. We work with the energy of shapes. We work with frequencies. We work with sound. We work with inert gases. We work with light. We work with many, many different things to compile them into focus points where tools will create a resonance that pulls people into their higher resonance. And so, anyway.
Very nice. I want to step back to something you mentioned there about the beings on the higher realms, the masters, etc., and their this connection that you said happened here in the last few years, a connection that brought about a different type of unity. Now, can you flesh that out a little bit more for me? Because and I'm sure I'm not the only one that this would raise a little bit of a question to. My understanding and I suppose an assumption, so that may make an ass out of you and me, but the beings on those higher levels, there's already just the existence within those levels carries a certain level of unity within it already. So I'm curious what you mean that there's a new level or a new threshold of unity that's happened there.
Yes, I mean I agree with you. There is more of a soup on those higher dimensional levels. You know, where everyone is not so much of an individual. Often many of the energies that I would speak to, like especially when I would speak to group energies, I mean, they would sometimes discuss within themselves, and sometimes, especially fifth dimensional beings, work with time in a different way than we do on the third dimension, and they would run experiments with things I was asking about and come back with verifiable results, because, you know, a matter of minutes in the fifth dimension can be literally almost like years in the third dimension. But nevertheless, it was something that was shared with me by an old friend, Dral Cool, who was the being who channeled through Alice Bailey and the Theosophical Society and what was going on in the 1920s. And he was really a Tibetan responsible for bringing a lot of metaphysical understanding to the West. So he's no longer in body, but he's coming through a number of other beings on this planet. And one of the beings he was coming through, he was starting to talk a lot more about sacred geometry. So he asked her to include me in the conference because we've interacted in numbers of lifetimes. And he shared that that's what's going on, that there is less of a hierarchy. There has been, that's what was put forward at that time in the 1920s, the spiritual hierarchy and ascended masters. And you have this brotherhood and that brotherhood, and they meet together, and they seem to have more singular focuses, singular aspects in the way they interact with reality, at least from our perspective. But he said that has been diminishing greatly and moving more and more toward a singularity. And, even though you can call upon Archangel Michael or Archangel Metatron or this energy or that energy, it's coming more from a singularity now, more from a place of unity that distinguishes itself more for our understanding, because we like to have a cup that we can pick up, have a handle on it. Some energy comes in and we say, well, what's your handle? What's your name? What do we call you? How do we relate to you? And, it's very hard for us to hear, well, I am you.
Right.
I am everything. I am all that is, and so are you, and here we are expressing ourselves together. It's I think, a step that's been taken to help ease our pathway as human beings into the unity, into the connection, into the incredible relationship that we are in universe. And so the more we accept that, the more empowering it becomes. No one's losing their sacred cow.
There's another way of looking at this too, Tom, and that is that, before, say, like the Hubble telescope was available, we didn't realize all of the galaxies that were out there. And we didn't get the detail of all the different star systems. And the more that you see when you're looking at these star systems, you see them as this incredible collective of stars, of light, of, spinning gyrations. And we know that now because we have gotten to a place where we have a tool that shows us what's out there. We've elevated our awareness to be able to see it. And so, working with the higher dimensions too, when we start talking about moving more into fourth and fifth dimensional energies and working with the hierarchical, the angelic realm and the hierarchical realms and things of that nature, we have advanced ourselves to be able to step into it, to be able to welcome that, to be able to interact and ask the right questions, right, so that we know what's out there. We are capable of, embracing this unity, where not that long ago, people were just talking about like one master or one, like Jesus or Mohammed or Buddha being the go-between between God and humans. And I know a lot of people still think that, but there's a lot of people now who go way beyond that.
Right.
And, it's just part of the evolution that's happening on this planet now and what we're exposed to. There's so much information, so much recognition. And so then the question becomes, okay, great, what do you do with it? How do you really take what you're opening up to and make a difference, really bring higher level consciousness, raise the frequencies, raise the energy field here.
Yeah,
it's just quickly, it's a little bit like we were having dinner with someone a short while ago, and they're Buddhists, and we were starting to talk about things, and we also both live on a river where we had a devastating flood about a year and a half ago. And we have a canyon in front of our house that's 100 yards wide. It's the size of a football field, 30 feet deep. And before it was all trees and fields and grass. And so a great deal of change. And I was talking to him about how much I was really enjoying the change. You know, you have no choice. You enjoy what is. And he was having a difficult time with it. But part of what came up for me was it's time to stop being a Buddhist and become the Buddha. I mean, this is really what we need to do. Stop being Christians and become the Christ. And it's not sacrilegious to say that, but that's the essence of who we are, and we really need to work on that with every breath. And it's not a difficult thing. It's a loving, simple thing when you just go into your heart and dance from your heart and move from your heart, and you start becoming what the unity is wanting to express in this dimension. And that's the joy. We get to be conduits for that love, conduits for that change. That change is happening through us because we open to it. And us, I use as all human beings. That's the magic of this time.
Yeah. I think one of the key things for people is when they look at these figures and say, I'm equal to that person, Buddha, Christ, or whoever. I'm the same as him, and I can accomplish what he did or get to the same level. I think one of the things that they keep showing with these different kinds of people is that they were able to do it on their own, not necessarily following any teachings or anything. And that's why teachings were made from them. And, religions were created around them because they were like mavericks. And I always felt that you have to be a maverick in your own way and follow your own, and not necessarily follow, okay, I'm going to do exactly like this person did it. Because I think you're setting up yourself for failure, because when you say, I'm going to follow exactly the way this person did it, you're not that person. There's different things about you that are different.
Absolutely. It's not that you become what you think. You see, the only thing that we know about some of those people in our heads is what we think about them, what we've been taught about them. And that isn't what I'm talking about becoming, but it's the essence of what motivated that person. And then, you're right, it's then totally unique every moment. And it's also, sometimes you hear these words and people go, oh my God, there's a lot of people that get locked up because they think they're John the Baptist or Jesus. How many guys think they are? But the point is, it's not thinking you are, but it's being at a level where what happens is you are totally being of service to everyone, because these beings were totally in service, and that's the only way to really express a real high level of consciousness, is to be in service to everyone you meet, and to be totally in respect and love with everyone you meet. And that's a challenge in today's world.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, something else that really distinguishes where we are now from that time, throughout history, the recorded history, we don't have, great records from before BC, but, there were specific individuals that, in a way, were like planted here, that had a very powerful mission to bring another level of consciousness, awareness to this planet. It's almost like, I'm sure that around the Buddha and Christ and Muhammad and all were amazing people around them that held the energy for them. But what it really came down to is that there was a person who we know as that being, that master, that receptacle for the energy that needed to be planted, and those seeds then gestated into so much that has colored the history as we know it, has really shifted humanity, in some ways good, in some ways not good. What's different and so unique about this time, just like the name of your radio station, the 100th Monkey, it's not about one person anymore. It's not about waiting for the knight in shining armor, a leader that's going to lead us to salvation. It is about every one of us stepping into who we are, waking up and having the responsibility to extend our hands to raise other people. So together, as hundreds and thousands and millions of monkeys, we shift the energy, the consciousness, the frequency on this planet. And that is amazing. I don't think that there's a time that's ever been like that before, where the ball has been thrown into all of our courts. Right. And we're not waiting for one person. Whenever we look at leaders all over the world, or people that we have, that we've raised up as heroes, we're always disappointed, right? Because it's not about one person getting that energy. It is about all of us and how we can, together support this incredible collective unity. That's really unique.
And we have the technology that on one hand is creating difficulties for us as far as our connection and health, like the EMFs and the toxins, but on the other hand, in the process of the developing technology, it's allowing, like your radio show, to go out to the world. And more people are creating a connection on the planet. It's all playing into a greater plan that's all understood in the timing of the way the universe is unfolding, which follows a very particular pattern that is geared to the size of the moon in relationship to the size of the earth. And, I can show you geometrically how that relates to the time sequence of a yuga in so many years, and how that relates to the distances in a mile that were conceived by certain units of measure that were very sacred, that allowed the Egyptians to relate their constructions to the entire diameter of the earth, and the Freemasons were working with it in the Gothic churches, and so on and so forth. Time and space is linked through pattern, rhythm, cycle, and geometry is the understanding of that pattern. And the rhythms and the cycles are working with the time. And so this is what has been coming down to us in our work that's called sacred geometry. And the depth of sacred geometry is far more than I ever could have imagined. It's a lot more than just nice-looking shapes, but it's literally the fabric of the way everything works. And when we understand how it's working, we can understand this time. We can understand that, okay, we have a couple hundred years of unfolding where one system is dissipating and a higher level of consciousness is coming into the planet. And the Earth is going through its own evolutionary birth. And it was denied this 50,000 years ago when it was supposed to be going through that. And now it's unstoppable. So we have got to keep pace with the Earth as human beings, because frequencies are shifting. NASA's measuring major frequency shifts on the planet in terms of the electromagnetic field is expanding. That means more solar radiation and cosmic radiation is coming in. The European Space Agency put up satellites in 2013 at the end of the year, and in the first 6 months of 2014, they noticed sometimes as much as a 15% decrease in the magnetic field of the planet in certain areas. It's like the Earth looks like a pincushion where there are magnetic fluxes coming up and going down all over the planet. And is often a reflection that is predisposing magnetic pole shift. And that was supposed to be thousands of years off, but we have really destabilized the relationship between the mantle and the core, which is what creates, it's the magnetic, it's the movement of the core of the planet that really creates the magnetic field. And that destabilization has come about because of nuclear testing and underground testing. And so we, as human beings, are precipitating a very rapid shift on this planet in many ways. And the electromagnetic field shift is not something to be feared in the sense that, oh my God, things are going to fly off the planet or things are going to break, or as much as it will allow for greater amounts of energy to come into the planet from the sun and from cosmic radiation, and energy precipitates change. You know, you have an icicle and you add heat, you're going to turn it into water. You add more energy, more heat, you can turn it into steam. And energy is coming into our lives, and it's affecting our fields so that it's precipitating a much more rapid growth cycle, a much more rapid turn of events. That's why time is seeming to speed up, because events are happening more quickly, because we're able to process more. I mean, there's just more stuff happening because of all this energy that's coming into our lives.
I'm going to have to stop you there. We have burned up the first hour completely. We just happened to be talking about time, and which is very appropriate for where we're at right now in the show. Before we sign off here in the first hour, would you share your websites with our audience so that they know where to go check out your material at?
Okay, you can find us at iConnectToAll.com.
Oh, fantastic! And those websites are linked in the information section below the audio you are listening to right now. So check them out. And we're going to definitely go into some of the forms and the different modalities that you guys are working with, and some of the benefits that you guys have seen out of what you've been developing and putting out there in the next hour. So if you're out there listening on the YouTubes, the Vimos, the iTunes, or wherever this audio happens to migrate to, and want to check out Hour 2, hop on over to www.the100thmonkeyradio.com, and there's just a ton of material there. So, okay, well, thank you so much for listening to the first hour. We will be back in a flash. Condemnation without investigation is the height of ignorance.
The love you deny is the pain you carry.
And namaste, my friends.
All the problems that divide the world of black and white. To end the racism, you know we've got to fight. So we must stand for love. a better way, so we must stay for love. Stop the violence, come together, make a better day. Stop the hatred, love each other.